Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us for the learning of Torah Hashem, Be'ezras Hashem Yisberach.
Mrs. Goldman's daughter became a Kala.
Mrs. Goldman, Naomi Goldman's daughter?
Yes, she was divorced, she became a
Mazel Tov. No, that's a nice Mazel Tov.
Yeah, okay, back to the real world.
Rabbi, in the outside of my brother-in-law, Chana Yitzchak and Pinchas Aaron, please.
Chana Yitzchak ben Pinchas Aaron. His neshama should have an aliyah. He should be a Melech Yosher for his family, for all of us, and all of Klal Yisrael. We're sponsored by Shalom Fogel. Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yodaya, Rivka bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam bas Gad, Yosef ben Sim ben Yaakov Zev, Refuah Shalema for Moshe Arya ben Miriam, and for the schus of Chaya Tzivya bas Shoshana Gittel, she should find a good shidduch. We're sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKohen, Refuah Shalema for Liba bas Anya. We're sponsored by A.B. Spry. Sponsored by Mark Frankel for the loving memory of his father, Yisrael Tzvi ben Chaim Yeshua Falik, and was sponsored for the spiritual, emotional, physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel, Ben Bela Shendel Rivka. Was sponsored by Berish Gesseman, L'Refuah Shalema for Shoshana bas Adina Chana. We learned from Moshe Meir ben Esther Fradel for Aaron ben Sarah, Nachman Yaakov ben Sarah. They should have a Refuah Shalema b'Seich Sharchei Yisrael.
Yocheved Bas Shena. That's the rough with mine. Yocheved Bas Shena.
Yocheved Bas Shena. Chama Sarah Bas Miriam. Okay. We're holding about a new Mishnah on the bottom of Kuf Yud Aleph Amid Beis. A new Mishnah on the bottom of Kuf Yud Aleph Amid Beis. So Chatis Shekibel Dama B'Kais Echad. You caught the blood in one clay sharis. V'hela b'chutz. Excuse me. Shekibel Dama B'Kais Echad. Nasan b'chutz. If you put it first outside, v'chazav nasan b'fnim, and then you did it inside, or b'fnim, if you did it inside, v'chazav nasan b'chutz, and then you did it outside, chayiv. Now the case where if you did it outside first, you're chayiv. That's of course, because since it was fit to go inside, when you do it outside, you're chayiv. Then when you do it inside, you're yaitz the mitzvah. The chiddush is that if you did it inside, and then you did it outside, now what you do outside is shirayim. So the Rishonim say that this is going according to Reb Nechemia, who holds that Shirayim is Ma'akvin. And according to the way we learned, then it would be talking about on Yom Kippur, because Reb Nechemia holds Shirayim is Ma'akvin only on Yom Kippur. Shekulei Roi, because it's all fit. Shekulei Roi B'fnim, because it's all fit to be used inside. Now, here we're going to deal with the subject of rejection. This is very interesting. Kibel Dama, in this case, Kibel Dama b'shtei kaises. In this case, our reliable Barry caught the blood in two clay sharises. So Nasan Shneim B'fnim Potter, obviously, if he did everything on the inside, then there's no problem at all. He's a tzaddik. Something that usually Barry has not been accused of. This is only said for symmetrical purposes. Shneim b'chutz, if he did them both outside, chayiv. Now, here, if he did them with two halamas, with two states of unawareness, in other words, he did it outside, and then he forgot that it was forbidden, and then he did it again outside, since both are fit to be done inside, he's chayiv two chatois. Echad b'fnim ve'echad b'chutz. If he did it inside with one case, then that makes the second case rejected. And therefore, if then echad b'chutz, if he then does the second case outside, since it's rejected, it wasn't right, so therefore then he's pater. Echad b'chutz ve'echad b'fnim, if he does it first outside, and then he does the other case inside, so chayiv ala chitzin, he was chayiv on the first one, because the first one wasn't rejected yet, so it was right, so he's chayiv for zrika b'chutz, va'pnimi, and then when he does the second one, mechaper, it atones. And the Mishnah makes an analogy. What could this be compared to? Lemafrish chatasai, who would do a sin. Okay, Mark. So Mark separates a chatas, va'avda. He's also forgetful. He lost it. V'hifrish acheres tachteha, and he separates a second one. V'achikach nimtzas harishayin, and then he finds the first one. So now he has them both here. He has the original chatas that he separated, and the replacement when he lost the first one, right? And they're both there. So varishtem oimdais, the two of them are standing here ready to go. Shachat shtein b'fneim, if he shechts them both inside, pater. Now, of course, he's not allowed to shecht them both inside, because once he shechts one, the other one is a chatas shekipru baleha, a chatas that the owner received atonement, which is one of the 5 chatos that have to die. But he's not chayev for shrutei chutz. There's no isakaris. If he did shtein b'chutz, if he did both of them outside, since each one was right to be brought inside, so chayiv, he's chayiv for each one. Achas b'fnim v'achas b'chutz, if he did the first one inside, and then the second one outside, well, once he did the first one inside, the second one is now a chatas shekipru baleh, which has to die, so it's not right, so he's going to be pater. Achas b'chutz v'achas b'fnim, if he first did it outside, so since that one was right to be brought inside, so he would be chayiv for chutz, and then he does the second one inside, chayiv ala chitzayna. The first one is chayiv for shchutei chutz, v'ala b'chutz, v'apnimis mekaperes, and the second one brings kapara. Now, here we're going to learn a halacha about mi'ilah. Here Mark has these 2 chatases, and he shechts one of them, and they sprinkle the blood of the first one. Kishem shedama poiter es besara, just like sprinkling the blood takes away the milah from the basar. Once he sprinkles the basar becomes permitted to the kahanim to eat. Kachi poiteres es besar chaverta, so it takes the mi'ilah off the other basar, because the other basar becomes now a chata shekipru baleha, which goes l'misa, which has no me'ilah. Okay. So now we start the top of Kuf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, 112. Not bad, 112, Rabbi Yisai. Think about the journey that we did in this Masechta. It's pretty impressive. So here we're talking about first the case of where it was caught in one case. So Bishleim b'chutz b'chaz of anasam b'fneim, when he did it outside and he did it inside. So he's chayiv for what he did outside, because when he did it outside, it was fit to be done inside. Shekula roi liyos b'fnim. Aval b'fnim v'helam b'chutz. But if he first did it outside and then he did it inside, and then he did it outside, so once he did it inside, the outside is shirayim. You shouldn't be chayiv for zrika b'chutz on shirayim. Shirayim is shiori mitzvah. Then shirayim ninu. So as I explained when we learned the Mishnah, Amani Reb Nechemiah, this is going according to Reb Nechemiah, there is shiori adam shekrivim b'chutz chayiv, because your shirayim is ma'akiv. So the Gemara says, but it's difficult to say that the authorship of the Mishnah is Reb Nechemia. Because Reb Nechemia, Ema Sefer, Kibel Dama B'Shnei Kaisais, if he caught the blood in 2 cups, Nasan Shneim B'Fnim Potter, if he did both of them on the inside, he's Potter. And remember we said that that's obvious. Shneim B'Chutz Chayiv, if he did both of them outside, as long as there's a halama in between, a state of unawareness in between, he's Chayiv. Echad B'Fnim Ve'echad B'Chutz, if he did one on the inside and one on the outside, Potter. Says the Gemara, but why should he be Potter? If he did one on the inside and one on the outside, the one on the outside is Shirayim. And we said Reb Nechemia holds Shirayim is Chayiv. Ayvam Reb Nechemia Shoy Adam Shekrivim B'chutz Chayiv. Now we could have answered that one is talking about on Yom Kippur and one is talking about the rest of the year. But the Gemara says it's different when it's in 2 cups. Because when you do the first cup, the second cup becomes rejected. Say for us on the Tanakama, the Rebbe Elazar, Reb Shimon, the Amar Kais Oisa Dichud L'Chaverai, that when you do 1 cup, the second cup becomes rejected. So therefore, once he does it 1 cup on the inside, the cup on the outside becomes rejected, and therefore you're not going to be chayiv. Now the Mishnah makes an analogy. Lama Davar Daima, what is this compared to? Lemafrish Chatasai, to somebody who separates his sin offering, V'avda, and he loses it, V'hifrish Acheres Tachtea, and he separates a second one, V'ach Kach Nimtzas Rishayna, and he finds the first one, and both are standing there. Says the Gemara, why? It seems to be they're both the same cases. What is the chiddush of this comparison? Lama davar daima lamali, says the Gemara, Hamani Rebihi, the Amar Avuda B'Shas Hafrasha, who says that if it was lost at the time of the separation, in other words, there's two. It's going according to Rabbi, who says that even if it was only lost at the time of the separation, but you found the original before you offered up the one you separated, so when you offer up one, the other one has to die. And that's why once you do the first one inside, if you do the second one outside, you're potter, because the second one has to die, because it's a chatris shekipra baleh. V'achi kamer, taima de avda, it's only if it was lost. But if Mark was a careful guy, Mark says, I'm traveling already to the Beis Hamikdash. I don't want to just take one carbon with me. And if on the way he gets a mum, then I'm up the creek without an animal. So what he does is he separates a second one for achrayas, for a backup. So he says in such a case, if he separated 2 chatas, one as a backup. So the one that's the backup is meant to be an oila. Is destined to be an oila, because what happens is you let it pasture until it gets a mum and you bring an oila. And according to some, if you bring it as an oila already, without it getting a mum, it's good. An oshim that was assigned to get a mum because it was extra. V'shachtu stam, and you shechted it stam basal ha'ila. And therefore, if you would offer outside that second one, you would be chayiv, because it's destined to be an ha'ila. Says, I could understand by an oshim, because the oshim is a zachar. So I could say that this animal itself, the extra one that you separated lachrayis, is destined to be an ha'ila, because an ha'ila is also a zachar. But by a chattas is in a cave. How could you say that it's destined to be an ha'ila? Midami hasam oshim zachar v'ha'ila zachar. Aval chattas, it's in a cave. So how could you say if Mark separated one lachrayis, it's destined to be an ha'ila? Can't be an ha'ila because it's a female. That's why we used Mark, because it's not Mark, it's King Mark. King Mark. He left his crown upstairs. It's King Mark. And the din is that if a Nasi brings a Chattas, he brings a Sar, he brings a male. Says the Gemara, Amrab Chia Miustinya, that's almost Bela Kinwood. Amrab Chia Miustinya, Basar Nasi, it's talking about the Sar of the king. Because if the king does a Chattas, so he separates a he-goat. And if he separates a second one, so then it's Aimid to be an Ayla, which is also a Zachar. Hadru Allah HaShoichet V'amala, Hadru Allah HaShoichet V'amala, Hadru Allah HaShoichet V'amala. It's good to see 30 Zoomers here, bright and early on a Sunday evening, as we have Saba, Dr. Guy, Mel Zachter, Yaakov Warman, and that's Menachem Yamansky, Irving Fishbaum, A.B. Spry, Ben Zion Cohn, Yisrael Fisher, Mark Frankel, or King Mark, Dr. Block, Shelley Zeitlin, Barry Cement, Shimon Klein, Yitzi Fuchs. I don't know why Yitzi, the first 111 didn't go up, but it refused to upload, so I uploaded it again. Rabbi Kran, Shalom Fogel, Mo Kushner, Nachman Chapler, Michal, Stephen Holtzman, Naftali Jablin, Avram Rezepkowitz, Ilya Shutman, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Abe Arbach, Reb Elia Yaffe, Yitzi Muller, Moshe Lehman. Here in Shul we have Berish Gesseman, we have Gedalia Engel, Chaim Kramer, Michal Avram Chavin, Shlema, Danny, and Ruvain Shanit. Yehuda Solomon is away for the week. He went from Florida for the week. So this week it's even going to be harder to get a minion. We have 8. 8 is a nice number, but now the new Mishnah starts off Paras Chattas. The Paras Chattas is the Paraduma. Is there a din of Shchutei Chutz by Paraduma? No, because it doesn't go El Pesach El Maid. It's not brought into the Beis Mikdash. So Paras Chattas is Sorfa Chutz Megita, that you burnt it outside of its designated pit. The Sar Mishtaleach, if you shecht it outside of the Beis Mikdash, Sheikr B'chutz, or you offer it up outside, Potter. Why? Because these are not things that go into the Beis Mikdash. Shenemar Ve'el Pesach Oyel Moed Lo Yavidu, that you didn't properly bring it into the Pesach Oyel Moed. Kol she'en ro'el Ve'el Pesach Oyel Moed, but if it's something that doesn't normally go into the Pesach Oyel Moed, ein chayav alav, you're not chayav for shchutei chutz. Haraveya, an animal that was the active partner in bestiality. Vanirva, a passive partner in bestiality. Amuksa, an animal that was set aside to be as a sacrifice to Avodah Zarah. Vanevad, or an animal that's worshipped. Vamachir, an animal that was exchanged for a dog. Va'esnan, an animal that was paid to the payment of a zayna. Va'kloim, a hybrid. Va'treif, an animal that can't live a year. V'yotzi dofen, an animal that was born from Caesarean section. Shekrivim b'chutz, that's offered outside Potter, because again, that's not an animal that you could bring inside. Shenemar, l'fnei Mishkan Hashem, only that which you bring before the Mishkan Hashem. Kol she'ein roi lava l'fnei Mishkan Hashem, if it's not fit to go to the Mishkan Hashem, ein chayav and love, you're not chayav. Now, we're going to see that we're going to have a list of cases where there's a machlokes if you're chayiv for something that's not roy now, but will be roy later. So for sure you're not chayiv karas, because it's not fit now. But because it'll be roy later, some say there is a lav. So here, bali mumin, blemished animals, bein bali mumin kavum, whether they're permanently blemished, bein bali mumin, or if they're bali mumin ovrim, or if they have a passing blemish, but right now they're not fit, shekrivam b'chutz that you offer outside, you're potter, because right now it's not fit to go Pesach Ol Moed. Reb Shimon Aimer bali mumin kavuin potter, because that's not fit. Bali mumin ovrim passing blemishes, since it's eventually going to be fit, chayiv b'loisasei. We're going to learn on Daf Kuf Yudalid what the lav is. But since it's going to be fit later, so you're chayiv a lav. Toirim shelo yagiu zmanam, turtle doves that didn't mature yet, or b'nei yaina she'ava zmanam, or pigeons that are over the hill, they're too old, she'krivim b'chutz potter. Again, Reb Shimon says turtle doves that are not mature yet, since they're going to be fit later, it's going to be a lav. Reb Shimon Aimer b'nei yaina she'ava zmanam, those that are over the hill, potter. But the toirim shelo yagiu zmanam, but the turtle doves that it didn't yet come their time, so since later on it will be fit, is a loisaseh. Here's another case. Oisev yaspenai. If you have a mother and a daughter, you already shechted the mother. So that if you do halah b'chutz on the daughter today, it's not fit to be brought inside, because you can't shech the mother and the daughter on the same day, or the son on the same day. Or a mechus's man, if it's not 8 days old yet, potter, because it's not fit, it has to be at least 8 days old. Reb Shimon Aimer is because the Oisev Esbenai will be ready tomorrow, and the 8-day-old will be ready when it's 8 days old. Reb Shimon Aimer kol shuroi lavoi la'achaz man, whatever is fit later on. So if you do it before it's fit, harizeh b'loisaseh, but ve'ein b'ikaris, v'chachamim aimim kol she'ein b'ikaris, since it's not fit now, el Pesach el Moed, ein b'loisaseh. There's no loisaseh. Now, Mechusar Zman, bein begufay, bein bebalav. If it's Mechusar Zman, whether because it's not old enough, it's not 8 days, whether the owner is Mechusar Zman. What does it mean that the owner is Mechusar Zman? Ezel Mechusar Zman bebalav. What does it mean that the owner is Mechusar Zman? Hazav v'azava v'yeledes v'ametzayra, the male person suffering from gonorrhea, the female, a woman that gave birth, and the mitzayra that brings their carbon before its time, right? They have to wait 7 days and then bring it on the 8th day. The Yoledis either has to wait 40 days or 80 days, depending if it's a boy or a girl. Shekrivu chatasim v'ashamim b'chutz, if they brought it before its time on the outside, since it's mechusar zman, they can't bring it yet then, Peturin. But if they bring Oloseyan Vishalmeyan, even though they're not allowed to bring their Oila now, it's too early, but they can bring the Oila as a Nedava. So therefore, if they do it B'chutz Chayavim, the Gemara is going to ask that these people don't have to bring a Shlamim. So what does it mean by Shalmeyan? That's now. You only Chayiv if you offer something that's supposed to go on the Mizbeach. Hamala mibsar chatas, if you bring from the flesh of a chatas, which is supposed to be eaten, mibsar oshin, the flesh of a guilt offering, mibsar kachim, the flesh of shalmei tzibur of shvuas, mibsar kachim kam, the flesh of a shlamim, or a taida, or ma'isar aimer, the leftover, the mincha of the aimer, after they take the kmitza, or shtat lechem, are the 2 loaves of shvuas which are eaten, v'lechem apanim, are the 12 loaves of the shulchan which are eaten, Oshiari Menachas, the rest of the mincha of Yisrael after you took off the Kemitza. So of course you're not going to be chayiv for Allah b'chutz, because this is not something that goes on the Mizbeach. Also, and this is a new din, which we didn't have yet, you're only chayiv for outside if you do an avodah tama. Avodah tama is a finishing avodah, like zrika is a finishing avodah, because it finishes the avodah with the zrikas hadam. Or haktorah, smoking it up, is a finishing avodah. But if you do a middle avodah outside, like vayutzak, pouring oil into a mincha, vapaites, or breaking up the mincha into pieces, vabolel, or kneading the mincha, vamaleach, or putting on salt, vamenif, or waving it, vamegish, or bringing it near the mizbeach, v'mesadres hashulchan, or arranging it on the table, v'meitivis haneris, or cleaning out the lamps, v'kaimitz, or taking the kmitza, v'mekabel damim, or catching the blood. All of these are not finishing avodas. If you do that b'chutz pater. Now, just like you're not chayiv for chutz, if it's not a finishing avodah, you're also not chayiv for other Misa b'dei shemayims. Ve'ein chayavin olav loy mishum zorus. If a non-kohen breaks the pieces or pours in the oil, he doesn't get misa. V'loy mishum tuma, he's not chayiv if he does it b'tumas haguf. V'loy mishum mechusa begadim, or if he does it lacking the bigdei kuna. V'loy mishum shelo richutz yadayim v'raglayim, or not sanctifying his hands and feet in the from the kiyah. Now, the Mishnah tells us when our private altar is permitted and when our private altar is forbidden. This is the whole story. There are some times that you could have an altar in your backyard. Gedalia remembers it in the fourth Gilgul. He remembers. Remember that? Remember that one? Gedalia told me about it once. He remembers going to the backyard and offering up a carbon. But certain big Bnei Aliyah remembered their Gilguls. The famous story of one of the Gedolei Rebbes, who says that he remembers that he was in a former Gilgul, he was at the time of the machloikis of Moshe Rabbeinu and Korach. And he was on the sidelines. And he says he remembers that he wasn't sure who was right. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So Barish is quiet. He's not telling us anything. Not telling us. You always could tell the modest ones, you know. It says that Shmuel remembered it says there's a very, very famous story with Avua the Shmuel. Famous story. Taisus brings it down. That Shmuel's father was a businessman. He was a big Talmid Chacham. Avua the Shmuel is quoted all over Shas, but he was a businessman. He was away on business, and a famous Zaina came to him and offered him a huge amount of money to sleep with him. So he asked her, Zainas don't offer people money to sleep with them. So she said she heard a baskel that whoever sleeps with him tonight will have a child whose wisdom will fill the world. So he ran away from her and used the shame Hamafirish and got back home and slept with his wife and then went back to do business. And his wife conceived. So when she conceived and they knew he was far away on business, she's an Eishes Ish, they took her to Bezdin and they gave her Malchus. And Shmuel says he remembers that he moved his head in his mother's womb, but he says he still remembers the banging, and he had a mark on the back of his head from the lashes. So of course Shmuel came back, or the father of Shmuel came back, and he said that it was him, and he used the shame. And that's why all over the Shas he's called Avud de Shmuel, to ratify that he was talking the father of Shmuel. And you know me, I always see things in names. Shmuel is the same letters as Shel Imai, because at the time they thought it was only from his mother. But anyway, so you see that Shmuel remembered all the way back to when he was in the womb. Anyway.
What do you see in the name Barry? I'm curious.
Well, for sure, there's a lot of bar in the name Barry.
Right, okay.
Rabbi, is there any, does the base din have any consequence?
What?
Does the base din have a consequence for what they did?
No, the whole story is very difficult to understand because,
Okay.
no, I'll tell you why. This the big cash on the story, which I never found an answer to, is how did he put his wife in such a compromising position?
Yeah.
It's a very difficult thing. I don't know. I don't understand that. I've looked for somebody to ask that question. I haven't found anybody to ask that question.
I mean, he simply had to show up at the time of the birth.
Correct. Correct. The whole thing is very mysterious. But anyway, so now getting back to reality, Ad Sheloi Hukam HaMishkan, until the Mishkan was erected, that means until Moshe Rabbeinu made the Mishkan, private altars were permitted. The Shvatim could bring on private altars. In Mitzrayim, they could bring on private altars. And the Avodah was done with the firstborns. But once the Mishkan was set up, so during the Midbar, private altars were forbidden, and the Avodah was switched to the Kahan. Now, kachim, like the chatas, the oshim, necholim lefnim and aklam, were eaten within the curtains around the Mishkan. The kachim kalim and the kachim kalim, like the shlamim, b'chol machne Yisrael, in the whole camp under the Ananei HaKavod. Bo leGilgal, when they arrived at Gilgal. Now in Gilgal, there was a big communal bama called the Bama of Gilgal. When they arrived in Gilgal, it became permitted again to have bamas, hutra bamas. They were allowed to have bamas. Kachim nechalun lefnim and aklaim. The kachim were eaten within the curtains of the communal bama of Gilgal. Kachim kalim b'chol makom. Kachim kalim were eaten anywhere. Bola Shiloh, when they got to the Mishkan Shiloh, then Nesru Abamis. Then the Bamis were forbidden. V'lo yasham tikra. The Mishkan Shiloh did not have a ceiling. Ela beis avanim. It was a stone structure. Bilvad milmatan v'yiriya milmalan, and it had curtains covering the roof. V'yayisa menucha. It says that we would come to Ela menucha ve'ela nachala. The place of menucha was Mishkan Shiloh. Kachim were eaten within the curtains of the Mishkan Shiloh. The kachim kalim or ma'aser sheni were eaten. There's no Yerushalayim, They were eaten anywhere that you could see Shilai, B'chol Araya. Once they came, after the Mishkan Shilai was destroyed, Bo l'Noiv Givon, there was a big bama in Noiv, and there was a big communal bama in Givon. Again, Hutru Abamas. This is the last time that private altars were permitted. Kachim Nechalim Lefnim and Aklam were eaten within the curtains of Noiv and Givon. Kachim Kalim B'chol Arei Yisrael were eaten all throughout Yisrael. Once it came to Yerushalayim, that's it. Once the Beis HaMikdash was built, that's the end, game over. Bo Yerushalayim Nesru Abamais, altars, private bamas were forbidden, V'lo Yoyalem Heter, and they were never permitted again. V'hi Oisa Nachala, and it was called Nachala, Kachim Nechalim Lefnim Aklayim, or eaten within the curtains, that's in the Azara. Kachim Kalam or Ma'aseh Sheni were eaten in the old city, Lefnim and Achayim, within the walls of Yerushalayim. Now, Kol HaKachim Shekdishin B'Shas Isra Bamas, Kachim that were sanctified at a time that Bamas were Aser, V'Krivam B'Shas Isra Bamas, and you offered them outside at the time of Isra Bamas, we throw the book at you. You're over the assay of bringing it El Pesach Al Mayed, and the lois assay of not doing it outside. V'chayav of karas. Hikdishan b'shas heter abamas. If you were makdish at a time where it was mutter, let's say you were makdish it in Gilgal, but v'krivam b'shas yirtzar abamas, but you offered it when they already set up the Mishkan Shilai. So there, b'chutz. You should have brought it at the time of the Etabamas. You're not supposed to bring it now, but the Ein Chayav and Alein Karas. There's no Karas since you originally sanctified it when it was Mutter. Hikdish and B'Shas Isra Abamas, if you makdish it at the time when it was forbidden, V'Kriv and B'Shas Heter Abamas, but you brought it when it was permitted, in other words, you makdish it during the Mishkan Shilai. But then you brought it by Noiv and Givon, when it was already permitted. Hari Elu Ba'asei, you were over the Asei of bringing it to the Beis HaMikdash when you could have by the Mishkan Shilai. But Ve'ein Ba'an Lois Asei, but there's no Lois Asei. Now the Elu Kachim Kraven B'Mishkan. The following Kachim could be only offered in the communal areas. And those are Kachim Shehukdashu L'Mikdash. Mishkan, kachim that are sanctified exclusively for the Mishkan, meaning carbon asiba, communal karbanas, like the carbon tamid, like the musafin, craven b'mishkan, the karbanas hayachid, but personal karbanas, babama, can be brought on a private altar. Now, let's say Barry says, I'm going to bring my private carbon in Shilai. Karbanas hayachid shehukdashu l'mishkan, then yakrivu b'mishkan. Barry should bring it in the Mishkan. But you know Barry. V'mikrivu b'bama, if he still brings it in his backyard, potter. Now what's the difference between procedure in a private altar and a communal bama? Smicha, we only do the leaning on the animal in a communal bama. Ushkitat safan, we only need to do kachim on the north on a communal bama. Umatan savit, we only have to do shnayim shein arba, 2 diagonal corners, getting the blood on all 4 sides on a communal bama. Utnufa, we only do waving, and hagasha, and bringing it near. Now, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, he says there is no mincha on a private bama. Ein mincha b'bama. There's no mincha on a private bama. V'kiyun, we don't need kohanim on a private bama. O big day sharis, we don't need to have the big day kahuna. O klei sharis, we don't need ministering vessels. V'reach nichayach, there's a din that on a public bama, you can't roast it first and then put it on the mizbeach, because it has to make a sweet smell on the mizbeach. That din does not apply on a private bama. Umechitza l'dam, there's no chut hasikra, dividing the lower bloods and the upper bloods. V'richitz yadayim v'raglayim, and there's no washing the hands and the feet from a kiyah on a private bama. Aval azman, but you can't do the 4 avodas hadam, having in mind to eat it after its time, v'anoiser, and that it gets disqualified if you leave it past its expiration date, v'atome, and not eating it betumas aguf, shavim bezer bezer, is true by all of them. Okay, Rabbi, I said this was a very pleasant experience. I want to remind you that if somebody wants to step forward and sponsor Shmais, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Also, we want to wish everybody a good night. Shelley, you sent me an